She walked into the interview like she owned the room. Then they found out who she really was. Monica Elridge didn't walk into Winstead Technologies like someone hoping to get a job. She walked in like someone who had already earned her seat at the table. Wearing a sharp navy blue suit and low heels that meant business, she looked composed and deliberate. Her hair was twisted into a soft, professional knot, and her resume was printed on high-grade paper, tucked neatly into a black folder. She hadn't rehearsed her answers. She didn't need to. It was 9:47 a.m. when she stepped into the glass-fronted building in Austin, Texas. The morning light hit the steel company logo just right. Cold, modern, sharp-edged, like everything inside. At the front desk, she greeted the young receptionist with a calm, "Good morning." But the woman barely looked up. She gave Monica a quick once-over, smirked, and asked without checking any schedule, "Interview?" "Yes," Monica replied. "Monica Elridge. I'm scheduled with the strategy team at 10. The receptionist tapped her keyboard, gave a small nod, and gestured to the chairs. "You can wait over there." No smile, no eye contact, just a dismissive wave. Monica said nothing. She simply walked over and sat down, crossing her legs, smoothing her skirt, and calmly opening her folder. She was used to this, the subtle condescension, the quiet efforts to unsettle her. She'd seen it before. At 9:56, a man in a maroon shirt and khakis strolled past the waiting area. He glanced at Monica once, then did a double take, smirked, and muttered, "Deliveries go through the back," just loud enough for her to hear, but quiet enough to avoid accountability. Monica looked up, eyes steady. "I'm not here for deliveries," she said firmly. He kept walking, pretending not to hear. At exactly 10 o'clock, a woman in a lavender blazer appeared and called Monica's name. She was maybe early 30s with a polite tone, but her eyes darted just a bit too quickly when Monica stood up. "This way, please. We'll be in conference room 3. As they walked down a hallway that smelled of printer toner and stale coffee, Monica caught glimpses of the office. Glass walls, cubicles, brief glances from inside. Some were curious, others calculating, measuring. In the conference room, 3 people were already seated. 2 men, 1 woman. One man had salt and pepper hair and a pinstripe suit that practically shouted executive. The other, younger, wore a buzz cut and a smartwatch he kept checking like he had somewhere better to be. The woman had pale skin, bright red lipstick, and a blouse that didn't quite match. Monica introduced herself with a smile and a firm handshake. "Monica Elridge, it's a pleasure to meet you." The responses were minimal. Pinstripe gave a short nod. Buzzcut didn't even stand. Red Lipstick offered a limp handshake and immediately returned to the papers in front of her. Then came the first shot. "You're a little overqualified for this position, aren't you?" Pinstripe asked, head tilted. Monica didn't blink. "I don't believe qualifications should ever be a disadvantage." He raised an eyebrow. "Fair enough. Let's begin." And just like that, the tone was set. Not one of curiosity, but quiet resistance. From the second question, Monica knew exactly what kind of room she had walked into. "Can you explain this employment gap?" Red Lipstick asked, flipping through Monica's resume. "Looks like you've been out of work for 4 years?" "I stepped away to care for my mother full-time," Monica replied. "She had advanced Parkinson's. She passed away last spring." There was a pause, no sympathy, no follow-up. Buzzcut leaned back in his chair. "And how do we know you're still up to speed?" 4 years is a long time." Monica kept her tone steady. "That's true, which is why I've spent the past year consulting on several strategic projects. I can walk you through recent case studies if you'd like." He shrugged. "Consulting's not the same. Strategy's not something you can dip in and out of." She met his gaze. "You'd be surprised what you stay sharp on when you've spent your career helping shape the game." That silenced the room for a beat. Pinstripe jumped in. "You were a director at Olden Row Partners. Why apply here, to a mid-level role?" "Because I was told this company is evolving," Monica answered. "And I'm drawn to companies that are building something real. Hierarchy doesn't impress me. Vision does." Another pause. Another silence that said more than words. They weren't asking why she was there. They were wondering how someone like her had the audacity to walk into their space with confidence. Someone with her skin, her presence, her certainty. "We're a results-driven culture," said Red Lipstick, trying to regain control. "We value team players who don't make things personal. I believe results speak loudest when the room actually listens," Monica said, calm as ever. "But I understand some rooms aren't used to certain voices." Buzzcut exhaled, something dangerously close to a laugh. "Let's talk metrics," he said, flipping through her file. "You said you led a restructuring project that saved over $4 million. Can you prove that?" "Absolutely. My team consolidated vendor contracts across 3 departments. I have the documentation if you'd like to see it." Pinstripe waved a hand. "We'll get to that. Let's stay high level. What's your strategy for handling pushback from a team that doesn't agree with your vision?" "I listen first," she said. "Then I ask better questions. People follow when they feel heard." Red Lipstick raised an eyebrow. "That sounds idealistic." Monica offered a small smile. "Maybe, but I've seen it work." And that's when she saw it for what it was. This wasn't an interview. It was an exam she hadn't asked to take. They weren't here to hire. They were here to see if she'd break, to test her poise, her patience, her presence. But Monica didn't flinch. She didn't crack. She answered every cutting question with composure, not because she needed the job, but because they needed to see what real strength looks like. What they didn't know was that Monica Elridge had been underestimated her whole life. She wasn't just another name on a resume. She was raised in Bakersfield, California, by parents who worked themselves to the bone. Her father was a truck driver. Her mother worked nights as a respiratory therapist. They didn't have much, but they gave Monica pride, resilience, and the wisdom to know exactly who she was. By 10 years old, she was reading the Wall Street Journal front to back. Her father used to bring it home and slap the front page, saying, "You want to see where the real power is, baby girl? It's in these pages, not on TV." And now here she was, not just walking into rooms like she belonged, but waiting for the moment they'd realize she was the one holding the door. By the time Monica Elridge was 17, she wasn't just excelling, she was leading. In high school, she tutored her peers in economics and debated policy in mock trials like someone twice her age. Before graduation, she earned a full scholarship to Spelman College in Atlanta. She majored in economics, graduated summa cum laude, third in her class, and skipped the celebrations. While her classmates threw parties, Monica packed 2 bags and boarded a flight to Boston for a summer internship at a global consulting firm. That internship became a job. The job became a career. And Monica didn't just climb the ladder, she rebuilt it with each step. By the age of 33, she was one of the youngest senior strategists at Hensley Clean, a Fortune 100 powerhouse based in Minneapolis. Her name began to surface in trade publications. She gave guest lectures at Stanford and Georgetown. She led multi-million-dollar initiatives, advised executives twice her age, and reshaped business models with quiet confidence. Then, life intervened. Her mother fell ill, Parkinson's, a diagnosis that didn't ask questions, didn't check resumes, and certainly didn't wait for annual reviews. Monica took a leave of absence. Then she extended it, and eventually she stepped away entirely. She moved back to Bakersfield and became a full-time caregiver, feeding tubes, med schedules, physical therapy, speech appointments. For 4 years, Monica disappeared from LinkedIn, stopped making magazine lists, and didn't walk into another boardroom. But she never lost herself. She read constantly. She kept her mind sharp. She took on consulting work where she could, remote, under the radar, quiet, not for praise, just to stay in motion. When her mother passed, Monica grieved deeply. But when she stood up again, she didn't just go looking for another job, she looked for purpose. Winstead Technologies caught her attention through a whispered phone call from a woman she once mentored, a rising star in the finance division named Patrice Callowell. Patrice had grown into a strong analyst and confided something Monica didn't take lightly. "They're trying to change the culture here," Patrice had said, "but there's resistance, bias in the corners, blind spots no one wants to admit. You'd shake things up, Monica, the kind of shake this place needs." Monica didn't pull strings. She didn't name drop. She submitted her resume like everyone else, through the online portal. What she didn't know was that someone important had already seen her name. Leon Carmichael, CEO of Winstead Technologies, had never forgotten Monica Elridge. A decade earlier, she had saved his company from signing a partnership that would have tanked their margins. It was one phone call and one bold strategy deck that had turned the tide. He never forgot her clarity, or her name. Back in conference room 3, the interview had taken a tone. Not one of curiosity, but of challenge. The panel wasn't probing to learn. They were testing her limits. Each question more pointed than the last. Each glance a bit more dismissive. Buzzcut leaned forward, tapping his pen. "Quick exercise," he said. "You walk into a team that doesn't like your leadership style. What's your first move?" Monica didn't blink. "I sit down, I listen. I learn what they think the problem is before assuming I'm the problem." Buzzcut gave a half smile. "So, you start by being soft?" She tilted her head. "Number I start by being smart." That landed. Buzzcut leaned back. Silence for the moment. But Pinstripe jumped in next. "We're a fast-paced environment. We don't have time for hand-holding and kumbaya. We need someone who can move fast and drive results." "Clarity isn't a slowdown," Monica replied evenly. "It's fuel. You can't drive anywhere if your team doesn't know the destination, or why it matters." Red Lipstick chimed in next. "Monica, if I can be candid, you come across very direct. Some people here might interpret that as combative. Would you be open to adjusting your tone if asked?" Monica looked her in the eye. "Is it my tone or your comfort level with women who don't downplay themselves?" That landed like a stone in water. Red Lipstick blinked. Buzzcut shifted. Pinstripe frowned, but no one spoke. No apology, no acknowledgement. Just the same sterile professionalism masking what everyone felt, but no one would say. They kept going. More questions, more thinly veiled doubts. But Monica didn't bend. She didn't shrink. She answered every slight with precision and calm. She didn't raise her voice, but her presence filled the room like thunderclouds on a clear day. And just when they thought they had her cornered, just when they circled back to the tired, loaded question, "Why this job? Why now? Why you?" The door opened. No knock, no announcement, just the soft click of the handle and the smooth swing of glass. Heads turned. Leon Carmichael stepped inside. He wasn't wearing a tie. He rarely did. Just a tailored gray suit and a quiet intensity. He wasn't checking his phone. He wasn't looking at anyone else. Only Monica. Red Lipstick straightened. Pinstripe sat up. Buzzcut cleared his throat. "Leon," Pinstripe began, scrambling to stand. "We didn't know." Leon raised a hand. Not sharply, but just enough. Silence followed. He walked calmly across the room, his eyes fixed on Monica like she was the only one who mattered. Then he stopped beside her chair and did something no one in that room was prepared for. He smiled, extended his hand, and bowed just slightly. "Miss Elridge," he said, voice smooth and sure. "Thank you for coming. We've been expecting you." Then he turned to the panel. "The chairwoman's seat is still open," he added, like it was the most obvious fact in the world. "If she'll have it." Silence. No one moved. No one breathed. Monica studied him for a long moment. Then she rose slowly and shook his hand. "Mr. Carmichael," she said evenly, "it's been a while." "You still make rooms shift," he said quietly, almost to himself. But that moment didn't just change Monica's life. It cracked something wide open inside Winstead Technologies. The silence in that room didn't feel respectful. It felt exposed, like someone had yanked back a curtain, and now everyone had to sit with what they'd allowed to happen. Buzzcut tried to recover first. "Leon, Mr. Carmichael, this was just an initial screening. We haven't even finished reviewing the full candidate pool." Leon didn't look at him. Instead, he turned back to Monica, gestured gently toward the hallway and said, "Let's find a quieter place to talk." Monica didn't look back at the panel. She didn't need to. She gathered her folder, straightened her jacket, and walked out beside the CEO. 2 doors down, they entered a private meeting room. No glass, no distractions, just clean walls and the kind of quiet that real conversations demand. Leon closed the door behind them and exhaled through his nose. "I knew your name looked familiar," he said, pulling out a chair for her. "Didn't connect the dots until I saw your face." Monica sat, calm and unshaken. "I didn't think you'd remember." You saved us from a disastrous merger collapse in 2014, he said. I haven't forgotten what real leadership looks like. She nodded once. I'm not sure the folks in that room would agree. He shook his head slowly, disappointment in his eyes. I'm not surprised. That panel's on borrowed time. They don't decide who leads this company. I do. Then why did I even go through the interview? She asked plainly. Because Patrice Callowell sent me your resume. Said you were the future this company needed. And she was right. He paused. And because we're cleaning house, Monica, not in a press release. For real. Quietly from the inside out. She tilted her head. You think one person can fix a culture this broken? I think the right person can, he replied. And I'm not offering you a stepping stone. I want you to sit where people don't expect you to. Loudly. She took a breath. Not out of surprise, out of calculation. Chairwoman, she said, testing the word. Why me? Because you've already done the job, in harder places, under more pressure, with less credit, Leon said. Because they thought they could box you out, and because your presence alone will shake the dust off every corner of this building. Monica leaned back in her chair thinking, will I have the authority to restructure? Full authority, he said. Policy, staffing, operations. You set the tone. And when the resistance comes, Leon gave a small shrug, then they can see themselves out. She paused, considering. I'm not interested in being a symbol, she said. I'm not here for show. If I do this, I change things. From the ground up. That's exactly what I'm counting on. There was a knock at the door. Leon didn't answer it. They already know, he said, gesturing loosely. Half the floor saw me walk in. Words already spreading. I don't need a standing ovation, Monica said. I need the space to do the work. You'll have it. She gave a short, final nod. Then we're done here. Leon stood and extended his hand again, this time not as a courtesy, but as confirmation. She took it, but the ripple had already begun. They stepped out of the room, and the office was no longer humming with quiet indifference. Screens glowed brighter. Fingers hovered awkwardly over keyboards. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. No one needed a memo to understand what had just happened. She had walked in alone. She was now walking out beside the CEO. Back in conference room 3, the interviewers were still seated. Monica passed by without a glance. But Leon paused in the doorway. We'll follow up this afternoon, he said calmly. Don't make any assumptions in the meantime. Pinstripe looked like he wanted to speak. He didn't. In the elevator, Leon turned to her. I know what they said in that room, he said. Monica met his gaze. Then I hope you also know what they didn't say, but meant. He nodded slowly. That's exactly why you're here. Monica drove herself home without drama. No music, no calls. Just quiet thought. She stopped at a small cafe on South Lamar, ordered a black coffee, and sat alone at a corner table. It wasn't until her second sip that the weight of the day settled in. This wasn't just a promotion, it was a reclamation. At Winstead Technologies, the office was buzzing, but not audibly. The news spread like heat through metal. Patrice Callowell got a ping on her work chat. Is it true? She's the new chairwoman? She didn't reply. In the break room, 2 analysts whispered over their lunches. Wait, that's Monica Elridge? From Hensley Clean? Yeah, Carmichael escorted her himself. Some whispered with hope, some with panic. Others whispered fears that the old guard might finally be on its way out. Red lipstick paced in her office for 10 full minutes before she finally knocked on Leon's door. He waved her in but didn't rise. I want to clear the air, she began carefully. Earlier, I may have come off too direct. Leon didn't respond. I just want to clarify. My intention was never to... You don't need to finish that sentence, he said, voice calm but unflinching. But you will sit through a full review of every interview you've conducted in the past 2 years. She blinked. Is that really necessary? I'd say it's overdue. She swallowed, nodded once, and left. Monica received the formal offer that afternoon, but it wasn't just a title. It was an open invitation to rebuild, to rewrite the hiring manual, overhaul the leadership division, restructure the diversity board, not in name, but in action. She didn't accept immediately. Instead, she requested one-on-one meetings with every executive director. No assistants, no filters. 1 hour each. Some accepted quickly, others hesitated, but they all understood. This wasn't just a new hire. This was a shift. 2 weeks later, Monica arrived for her first day. She didn't take the executive entrance, didn't ride the private elevator. She walked straight through the front doors of Winstead Technologies at 8:03 a.m., holding a leather portfolio, dressed in a deep green blouse and tailored slacks, expression calm and focused. She wasn't there to be celebrated. She was there to lead. The same receptionist from her interview stood up before she even reached the desk. "Miss Elridge," she said, voice almost reverent. "Good morning." "Welcome back," the receptionist said warmly. Monica offered a polite smile. "Thank you. Is Patrice in?" "I believe so. I'll let her know you're on your way up." People noticed. They always did. Conversations hushed when Monica entered the elevator. Glances shifted. Some looked at her with curiosity. Others lowered their eyes entirely, unsure of what her presence now signaled. But Monica wasn't there to be liked or feared. She was there to build something that didn't need her name on it to last. By 9 a.m., she stood at the head of a conference table in a closed-door meeting with senior leadership. 11 directors, 3 vice presidents, 2 HR officers, and Leon. No slideshow, no charts. "Just one question," she said, scanning the room. "How many of you can honestly say you've been challenged, truly challenged, by someone who didn't look like you?" The silence was immediate and total. After a moment, a silver-haired director cleared her throat. "I don't think we're resistant to being challenged." "That's not what I asked," Monica replied flatly. More silence. "I've reviewed every hiring decision, promotion path, and disciplinary action over the last 5 years," she continued. "Some patterns are unconscious. Others, not so much. But either way, they're mine now, and I intend to fix them." One VP leaned forward. "And by fix, you mean?" "I mean rewrite," she said without blinking. "Policies, culture, accountability, from the foundation up." Faces stiffened. "There will be bias response training, mandatory audits of all exit interviews, anonymous review loops. If any of that feels unnecessary to you, then leadership might not be the right fit going forward." It wasn't a threat, it was a threshold. In the weeks that followed, Monica's schedule was relentless. Meetings, one-on-ones, listening sessions. She didn't arrive with slogans or grand promises. She moved with precision. She opened weekly office hours. No appointment needed. Anyone from any department, any rank, could speak with her directly. The first week, no one came. The second, 3 employees stopped by. By the third week, her assistant had to start creating blocks on the calendar. The stories poured in. A woman overlooked for promotion 3 times. A black engineer whose concept had been credited to someone else's team. A new hire still being trained with outdated anti-harassment policies from years ago. Monica listened, took notes, followed up, quietly but firmly. She never raised her voice, never referenced the interview that started it all. She didn't have to. The building remembered. One afternoon, Patrice entered her office carrying 2 coffees. "It says you're the reason they haven't left yet," she said, setting a cup down. "And someone in marketing thinks you're secretly the new CEO." Monica chuckled. "Tell them I don't want the CEO's job. I'm too busy running the place." Patrice raised an eyebrow. "You good?" "I'm good," Monica replied, "and we're just getting started." But even with a seat at the table, Monica knew the real work was only beginning. That evening, just past 6:30, she sat alone in her corner office. Most of the building had emptied. The Austin skyline shimmered beyond the windows. One hand rested on a yellow legal pad. The other cradled a cooling cup of tea. Her desk was organized. A photo of her parents. A closed laptop. A stack of internal reports marked review. There was no grand celebration, no splashy headline, no company-wide announcement. And she liked it that way. Because for Monica, the win wasn't the title. It was the shift. The glances that no longer held subtle dismissal. The voices that felt safe to speak up. The interns who straightened their backs after seeing someone like her. Not posing, but deciding. She thought about that interview. The way they questioned her tone, her resume, her presence. They hadn't realized who they were looking at. Maybe that was the point. Her mother once told her, Baby, they'll try to turn your voice down, but never give them the dial. She never did. She kept speaking, clear, calm, and consistent, until her voice helped build something that couldn't be ignored. That's the thing about power. It's not always handed to you. Sometimes you walk in already holding it, and the ones who try to minimize you only remind you of how large you've become. Monica didn't erase decades of culture overnight. She didn't solve every issue in a month, but she proved something without ever needing to say it out loud. You don't need permission to take a seat at the table. You are the seat. And now she was building a longer one. She stood, slipped on her coat, and turned off the light. No dramatic exit, no last word. Just quiet purpose, steady footsteps, and the start of something permanent. She'd be back tomorrow, and the next day, and every day after, until this wasn't an exception anymore. It was the expectation. If you've ever been doubted, talked over, or made to feel like you had to shrink to fit the room, grow anyway. Take your seat. And if that seat doesn't exist yet, build your own.